This is a review for Quick Quiz 2.3. Don't forget, if you have any questions after reviewing this information, that you need to ask, because the next step is going to be taking a quick quiz on your own. The first problem here says to add 938 and 1500ths to 7 and 4900ths. Remember that when we are adding decimals, you have to keep in mind that the decimal places and the decimal need to line up. So I know that 7 is 7 ones, so I'll put that underneath the 8 ones, and then everything else after that will align. At this point, you just add like you normally would, starting with the smallest place. 5 hundredths plus 9 hundredths is 14 hundredths, which allows me to regroup. 4 tenths plus 1 tenth plus 1 tenth is 6 tenths. When you get to the decimal, insert the decimal in the answer. 8 plus 7 is 15, carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4 tenths, and 900 plus no hundredths is 9. The next problem says to subtract 2062 and 4 hundredths minus 65 and 18 hundredths. Just like addition, all you have to keep in mind, all you have to remember, is that your decimal places need to line up. So 6 and 65 is 6 tens, so I'll put that underneath the tens place, and all of the other digits will just line up. Now you subtract like you normally would. I'm starting with 4 minus 8, which I can't do, so I need to regroup. I go next door, it's 0, so I can't regroup from there, so I have to go next door one more time. And I'm going to take 1 from 2, which now gives me 10 tenths, and that will allow me to regroup for hundredths. So that leaves me with 9, and that gives me 14 hundredths. 14 minus 8 is 6. 9 minus 1 is 8. We have the decimal point next, so we'll go ahead and put that. Then we have 1 minus 5, which we can't do, so I need to go next door to regroup. I will take 1 from 6, which leaves me with 5, and that gives me another 1 for a total of 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. Now I've got 5 minus 6, which I can't do, so I go next door to regroup, but that's a 0, so I have to regroup one more place. So I take 1 from 2, which leaves me with 1. That now gives me 10 in the hundredths place, so I have enough to regroup there, so that's 9, and then that gives me 1500 tens. 15 minus 6 is 9. 9 minus nothing is 9, 1 minus nothing is 1, and that is how you subtract with decimals. Mr. Paver needs 4 7/10 yards of rope for his tent. He cuts that amount off, that's supposed to say off a roll that has 32 and 34 hundredths yards. How many yards are left on the roll? Well, if he's cutting some amount off of this total amount, that would be subtraction. So I'm going to do 32 and 34 hundredths minus 4 and 7 hundredths. Don't forget to line up your decimal places. When there is a blank, you can insert zeros if you need to. 4 minus 0 is 4. 3 minus 7 we can't do, so I have to go next door and regroup. That leaves us with 1, which would give us 13 tenths. 13 minus 7 is 6. Put the decimal because that comes next. Now we've got 1 minus 4, which we can't do, so I'll regroup again, giving me 11 ones. Minus 4 is 7, and 2 minus nothing is 27. And of course, words in the problem, words in the answer. The unit here was yards. Show how to use the commutative and associative properties to find the sum. So all I really need to do here is insert maybe some brackets or some arrows. I'm looking for friendly sums. Since this problem has decimals, I can see here that 2 tenths and 8 tenths makes 1 whole. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bracket here to show that 5 and 2 tenths plus 8 tenths would just give me 6 whole. Then I also see that 4 and 55 hundredths and 2 and 45 hundredths would give me a friendly sum, because 55 hundredths and 45 hundredths is 1 whole. 4 whole plus 2 whole plus the 1 more whole would be 7. And then we have this 3 and 72 hundredths left over. I can add all of the whole numbers first, and I see another friendly sum. Actually, I've got 7 and 3, which makes 10. And then 10 plus 6 is 16. The only decimal I have is on the end of this number, so I'll just insert that decimal on top of the whole numbers. The yard is 103 and 65 hundredths feet wide and 65 and 83 hundredths feet long. How much wider is it than long? Well, let's see. Here's my width. Here's the length. We want to know how much wider it is than long. So that's a comparison problem. So I'm going to subtract 103 and 65 hundredths minus 65 and 83 hundredths. Line up your decimals and place values, and then subtract like you normally would. 5 minus 3 is 2. 6 minus 8 I can't do, so I'll regroup. 16 minus 8 is 8. 2 minus 5 I can't do. So I need to regroup. I go next door, but there's nothing. So I go next door here. That leaves me with 0, and that gives me 10 tenths. Now I can regroup, which would give me 9 tenths and 12 ones. Decimal where the decimal place goes. 12 minus 5 is 7. 9 minus 6 is 3. And, of course, words in the problem, words in the answer. 37 and 82 hundredths feet.